Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. I want to thank you for being with us. First, grandparents George and Cindy refused to answer questions under oath. They storm out of the room yelling, cursing out the lawyers. But in their effort to saturate the jury pool with their version of events, the Anthonys appear again just hours ago on CBS. The Oprah Winfrey Show says, let's call the whole thing off. Tonight we learned a private voicemail message emerges to police from grandmother Cindy, implicating daughter Casey in the disappearance of Kelly, and then pointing cops to a photo of the imaginary nanny/kidnapper's imaginary apartment. Was Kelly in that photo? The state beefing up the case with about a half a dozen more forensic experts, including a firearms and tool mark expert. As the grandparents say, they'll stand beside Tot Mom no matter what. But tonight, who will stand beside little Kelly?
We're dealing with it the best that we can. It's very hard. It's very difficult.
It hurts very much. You know, I want to be able to let her know that I'm here for you. I want to give her some strength.
We haven't even had a chance to grieve with her.
They've said that she was a liar, and that was well documented. Why should people believe her now when her life is at stake?
Well, her life is at stake.
The kind of daughter that any father is proud of. I mean, I'm proud of my daughter. And to watch Kaylee grow up, you know, like she did. I mean, she's like watching her mom coming up again, watching my daughter grow up again.
All we can do is stand behind our daughter. You know, that's all we can do right now.
Unflinching support.
Unflinching support. I believe in her.
There's some people that just say, well, we should just be done with it. Just, you know, I can't go like this and just be done with it. You can't. That's our daughter, you know.
No matter what she may or may not have done?
No matter what, that's still our daughter. That's no matter what.
We are taking your calls live, and we will continue to play that interview that occurred just hours ago of grandparents George and Cindy Anthony on the CBS Early Show. Straight out to Drew Petromo with WDBO, standing by there in Orlando. What effect have these interviews had in and around the jailhouse, in the area, the court watchers who see the grandparents going on television, and they are not really answering the tough questions? When they get a tough question, they look over at their lawyer or they answer something entirely different, Drew Petromo.
There has been a lot of animosity towards the Anthony family stemming from these interviews. They get heated, they lose their temper. That's been going on since this case originally started. If you remember, back when they were protesters at their house, they'd get into it with the people out front of their house. So they've been very combative around Orlando. People take notice of that. On the other hand, they also do feel sorry for them. They are going through something that's very difficult.
Let's take a look at the Tot Mom's parents, Cindy and George Anthony, just hours ago, answering questions on the CBS Early Show. And then we'll compare that to the acrimony when they were under oath. Take a listen.
She claims that the babysitter snatched her.
Yes.
George, shouldn't she have reported her missing?
Again, I can't say what my daughter was thinking, what she was doing. We just don't know.
Do you fault her for anything?
How can we? We don't know what she's been through. I don't know what that girl has been through.
Do you think that you have dealt with her death, the brutal reality of her death?
You know, we're dealing with it the best that we can. It's very hard. It's very difficult. You know, there's days that...
But do you allow yourself to think about that, or is that something that you just need to block out of your mind, what happened to Kaylee?
Well, we don't know what happened to Kaylee.
Well, we know that she was murdered.
But we don't know what happened to her. That's the thing.
You are seeing part 2 of the CBS Early Show's interview with grandparents George and Cindy Anthony. We are taking your calls live out to Mark Williams, anchor and reporter, also standing by there in Orlando. Mark Williams, what do you find the most significant thing that we learned from a 2-part interview series with the grandparents?
Well, a couple of things, Nancy. First off, there were a lot of softball questions in those two interviews. I watched them both when they came down the pipe. Secondly, you know, they're trying to plant a seed of doubt that their daughter didn't do it, because remember, she said yesterday on the interview that Casey will not plead this deal out. She says she won't plead to anything that she didn't do. And that's the bottom line. Secondly, they're unflinchingly standing behind their daughter.
To Ellie Jostad, our chief editorial producer, it comes to light tonight. And Liz, let me see if you could pull up this audio tape, a private voicemail message left from grandmother Cindy to police. In that message, she says Tot Mom clearly had help in the disappearance of little Kelly, but then goes on to direct police to a photo of the imaginary nanny's apartment. How can that be, Ellie Jostad?
Right. Cindy Anthony leaves this message, and it's a 3-minute kind of rambling message for Detective John Allen. She says that she has this photograph of Kaylee. She says she doesn't recognize the background. She describes the drapes, says it's no place she's seen before, and that maybe this is Zanny's apartment and that the cops should look into it.
Let's take a listen to grandmother Cindy Anthony directing police to a photo she says is of the nanny, the kidnapper, the killer's apartment. Take a listen.
There's a one photo that's been put up of Kaylee quite frequently, and it's the one of her in her little blue dress smiling, and there's some reddish colored curtains in the background. That apartment that she's sitting in has been told to me over and over and over again that was the Zanny's apartment or the babysitter's apartment. So I'm just wondering if you guys can enlarge that, if you guys have investigated that, asked any of her friends or anybody if you're looking into that angle.